What's up, Pelicans fans? I'm going to start doing some short videos on different aspects of the Pelicans offseason coming up. We're going to tackle trades, free agency, the draft, and much more. Today's video is going to be on a secret player who I want the Pelicans to go after fairly aggressively, and I think is going to help them not only next year, but in the years to come. Now, if you followed me on Twitter, I've kind of been talking about how the Pelicans are going to need eventually a replacement for Jonas Valanciunas at the center spot. But in the meantime, someone to accentuate his strengths and back him up from the bench and be able to step in spot minutes when they need to. Now, if you look across the league, there's not many quality centers available at a great price. So sometimes you have to take a swing and go after some guys who didn't have the best situation on their past team and have some growth left. And I think there's no better candidate than Mo Bamba of the Orlando Magic. Now, Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report has recently reported that teams are expecting Orlando to move on from Mo Bamba, who is a restricted free agent this summer. And now Orlando has the number one pick, and they may be eyeing Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith from those picks. Either way, there's a lot of big men on their roster, and they might be adding another big man. And there's minutes to go around for a lot of those folks, but perhaps not for Mo. Now, if you take a look at who they have, they gave Wendell Carter Jr. An extension this past year. They have Franz Wagner, who's going to take minutes at the wing in the big spots. They have Jonathan Isaac, who is still someone that they're invested in and still on their roster. And now they have the potential to add perhaps another one. I believe that the Magic are going to go in a different direction, and it won't take too much to take Mo Bamba off of their hands. Now, before we get into the process of what it would take to acquire Mo, let's talk about him as a player and his fit. First of all, he's a true center. He's absolutely huge. He registered one of the biggest wingspans at the combine, and part of the appeal for him at draft time is that he has an NBA style frame and is going to be able to contest shots at the rim in a style similar to Rudy Gobert. Now, he's not Rudy Gobert on defense yet, and perhaps may never be, but he's still a big body who blocks shots at a pretty high rate despite limited minutes. He's also a good rebounder, and if we take a little dive into his stats here, we take a look at what's going on. Whoa, he's actually a pretty decent three-point shooter. If you look at it, he shot 38% from three on 4 attempts a game, which actually comes out to 107 makes on the season. That's 33 more makes than Brandon Ingram had. He may be a true stretch five, and who knows what his potential is as a shooter if he gets in the Pelicans development system under Fred Vinson. Now, this type of player seems like a pretty obvious fit with the Pelicans, someone who is able to rebound, block shots, and provide spacing for their centers. Not for their centers, for Zion and the rest of the team. Jonas is on a 2-year extension and eventually will age out. And one of the concerns with Jonas is how is he going to age as a defender as the years go on? And this is where the young Mo Bamba comes in. I think the Pelicans should go after him, sign him to a 4-year deal, bring him in to back up Jonas when he can, spot Jonas when Jonas is out, and slowly groom him to be a replacement. Let's talk about Mo's contract. Mo is an upcoming restricted free agent. The Magic have the ability to give him a qualifying offer of $10 million, just over $10 million, right? The cap hold is really not important for the Magic. They're going to be under the cap. They're going to have the ability to retain him if they want to, but if we're operating under the assumption that the Magic do not want to keep him, $10 million is the qualifying offer, which is funny because the mid-level exception this year is just over that amount. The mid-level exception comes out to 10.3, which is about $300K over his qualifying offer. And if the Pelicans are able to free up the mid-level exception, they can offer him a deal to the tune of 4 years, $44 million. Now, how did we come to that deal? If you take a look at the centers around his starting range, we're going to look at Richaun Holmes. We're going to look at Robert Williams. We're going to look at Daniel Tice. These are three centers that I've pegged out that recently got paid, that are around his range. And you could argue that Mo's not going to make more than Robert, who is a starter on a high-level playoff team. You could argue that Richaun has been also a starter for longer and been more productive, and therefore he got more money on the Kings. So where do we have Mo? We have Mo right in the 4 years, $44 million range. Sorry, I'm fumbling my words. Whereas Robert Williams got 4 years, 48, which is the high end, and Rashawn got 4 years, 46, which is the median. So I think it would be absolutely fair to give Mo 4 years, 44 million, the full MLE. It would require the Pelicans freeing up space under the tax. It would require them to move off of Devontae Graham. But the Pelicans still have an option to sign and trade, in which Devontae would go to the Magic, or maybe Jackson goes somewhere else, and that allows the Pelicans to come in and acquire Mo Bamba. So, going to keep this short and sweet. Those are the mechanics behind the trade. Maybe they have to add a second or two to entice Orlando into a sign and trade, but the availability is there. I think a young player coming into Willie Green's culture, who is by all accounts a great locker room guy, is someone the Pelicans should gamble on in terms of finding a long-term solution at the 5 for when Jonas Valanciunas finally starts to age. Appreciate you listening to me on this. Hopefully these are going to get better, but that's your secret player of the day.